What's up, guys? Welcome back to Restrepo's Rundown. I'm your host, Julian Restrepo, and today this podcast is going to explore Division One student athletes, and we will make and support claims like being a student athlete isn't as always and fun as people may see. Now, today we are joined with Aiden Puk, who is a freshman here at Providence College. He's a swimmer. We're going to get to know more about Aiden, but Aiden, thank you first of all for having the time to jump on.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. So just kind of tell the people a little bit about yourself. What's your name? Where are you from? Obviously, they know you're a freshman. So, and then we can do what's your major?
Yeah, I'm Aiden Puk. I'm from Plainfield, Illinois, about 40 minutes outside of Chicago. I'm a finance major. I'm a freshman on the swim team, and I'm a butterflyer.
There we go. There we go. Now, obviously you said you're from Illinois, so Aiden, kind of just give us a little. We're getting to know you, so kind of obviously I know you, but for the people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your family life. Any siblings or
Yeah, I live with my mom, my dad, and my little brother, who's a sophomore in high school. He also swims. Well, I
okay,
was the first one to swim in my family, but it just
okay.
kind of became a family thing. As soon as I started doing it, my brother started loving it, and then he started doing it. And yeah, we've been doing it since we were each 8 years old. So
Oh
yeah,
wow. Okay. Well, that kind of actually brings me to the next question I was gonna ask. So you are a swimmer. You said you started at 8, right?
yeah,
Um, was there any other sport before swimming, or when did you start picking up swimming, and why did you end up picking up swimming to take to collegiate level?
yeah. The main sports for me, I played some basketball. I played very little soccer when I was younger, and I was very bad at it. Um, then I played some baseball, and that was probably what I was best at. And I was a lefty too, so
Yeah.
everybody wanted me to pitch, but
Yeah.
I just did not enjoy it that much. But after swim lessons, I kind of realized like, oh, you can race and swim at the same time, and I ended up joining a club team that was small in the area, and then moving to the one that I've been on since I was 8, and I just fell in love with the sport ever since.
Yeah. Now, how is that area growing up in Illinois? Was swim like a huge sport around town, or
Um, Illinois is a top 5 swim state, so in the country. So really, as like you get older, you start to recognize that. But when you're younger, you don't really like realize that at all because it's just kind of you're going to meets, having fun and everything. But as you start to progress in the sport, take it more seriously, you like kind of realize like, oh shoot, they're like Illinois is really good, and then you see more of these Illinois teams at different meets around the country, and so on the surface, like swimming isn't that big compared to football or baseball in Illinois. But yeah, for the sport of swimming, Illinois is pretty big and up there usually.
okay, there you go. So I know I know you mentioned you touched on you played basketball, you were a baseball player as well, and a little bit of soccer, even though you said you weren't the best. So playing those sports, do you feel like it had any effect, or it translated to swimming, or do you feel like swimming in itself is completely different?
Wait, sorry, what was that last part? I couldn't catch that.
Do you think playing basketball, playing baseball, like any of it kind of translates to swimming? Do you see any like can you bring anything from playing those two sports into your sport right now?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the mental things are the biggest part. So swimming, I feel it's like 90% mental and then like 10% physical. Really, you have
Hmm.
to be in that good mental state to perform well. And if you're not, like, you're usually not going to reach your PRs and stuff like that. So I feel like the mental strengths that you get from playing all the different sports really helps a lot. And then you see stuff like coordination and like basketball or soccer that definitely impacts it a lot. Like arm strength from like baseball would impact swimming a lot and improve your pull. But yeah, I feel like it's the stuff you wouldn't really notice on the surface that would impact it the most.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I find very interesting about swimming because from other athletes that we've had on this podcast, they've all been team oriented sports. And even though swim does have its own team, it is also as much as individual performance and individual sport in itself. So how do you view that, the difference of playing in a team sport to now it's kind of it's all up to you.
I'd say although it is an individual sport, it is way more of a team sport than you would think because like the real you start off every meet with relays and then everyone's always really hyped and really excited for those, and it's just like everybody on your team is cheering for everybody in the water. It's kind of like a really team environment and you're scoring points like for the team. So although you're racing in individual events, it really like everything you're doing and everything you're swimming for is for the team. You're looking to get those guys on other teams and maybe hawk them down at the end of your races. And then you're looking at your teammates, and even if they beat you, it's good for them because you know that your team's going to be scoring points in the end, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no. And you did mention that you have a younger brother, sophomore in high school. He is a swimmer. Have you spoken to him about PC at all yet, or does he have his eyes on playing or on doing college swimming?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's really wanting to swim in college necessarily. He might end up calling it a career after 4 years of high school, but if he does, VC will definitely be there. I'm sure my mom wouldn't be in favor of that. She's already broken over me being 1,000 miles away, so
Yeah,
she's not
yeah,
too supportive of him leaving the Midwest necessarily. But
yeah.
if he if he did, yeah, you definitely have to look here.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right. Well, now that we've gotten to know you a bit, know your family background and where you're from. So now to kind of change gears, I kind of want to talk about your process of getting recruited. So kind of walk me through, like, I want to say your junior year and forward of high school, and kind of what that process looked like. Not only talking to PC, but even like talking to other schools and just the whole process in general of getting recruited.
Yeah. So my process was a lot different than a lot of kids. So I started my sophomore year. I was reaching out to a ton of schools, getting a ton of responses, and I was talking to most schools pretty much like the whole summer and fall heading into junior year. Then I kind of hit a rough patch, just kind of like in my mind, really. And I kind of convinced myself that, like you're not good enough to swim in college, which was really short sighted of me. And so I kind of realized, like, as my coach kind of helped me along, and then he was looking, we kind of found a ton of schools I could swim for. And most of those I convinced myself. I was like, I really can't even go here. I don't even think I'm good enough. But he just kind of helped me see, like, yeah, if you're doing this in high school, you'd be here in the roster right now. You can reach out to these schools. And I kind of moved past that and then put myself in a more positive mindset. And that really helped me a lot with finding schools. And at the end of my junior year, summer heading into senior year, I had reached out to Providence because for my birthday, my dad had gotten me tickets to the Sweet 16 game in Chicago, where we
Mhm,
saw Miami play Iowa State and then Providence play Kansas. And I
mhm.
saw the student section for Providence, and even though it was in Chicago, they were packed. Everybody's coming out. They were very spirited, and they were all getting behind the Friar mindset. And so I reached out to them afterwards because that was one of the schools I was already looking at. The coaches were so nice to me, had me on a couple of visits, and I just found it was an amazing, friendly, and welcoming place, and it was really unlike any other. So I decided to commit my senior year in the fall and have not looked back since.
Yeah. All right. Well, kind of like touching on, because I know it's for different sports, it's different. For soccer, we have our own, I guess, template of how we reach out to coaches. But for swimming, I know it's different because it's a lot of it is like time oriented and it's just a bit different. So for those, well, for me and even for those who may not know too much about swim, like when you're recruiting, like what are you sending to these coaches? What does the template look like when you're sending an email?
Yeah, so it is very straightforward actually with swimming because basically you have to look at people's times and then you have to see where these swimmers would fit on your roster. from like a coach's point of view. And then so if I was a coach and I saw a swimmer and they fit in where I'd like them to be in the roster, and say, okay, yeah, these times can place at Big East, these times can a final at Big East, or they can score, maybe even medal. Then you're gonna say, yeah, I'd really like to talk to them. You set up chats and everything, and then from there, it's really you got to see the grades if they're going to be a reliable student, and then if they're going to hold up in college, what type of personality will they be? Will they be like welcoming or good for the team culture? Because team culture really means a ton in swimming, because when everything's mostly kind of in your head, you have to be in that right space when you're swimming or practicing. So if you have a good group of guys, you're going to be able to really train hard and then perform well. But if you have a bunch of personalities that are colluding, it might be an issue down the line.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I agree. I do want to talk more about your official visit of you said you reached out. They were very nice after you saw like the basketball game. Then you saw the Friar fan base. What was that visit like for you? What was kind of going through your mind as you actually saw PC campus and firsthand?
Yeah, it was awesome. I flew in alone, and so from the beginning, the assistant coach, Marge, she picked me up from the airport, and she was so nice. I talked to her over the phone a lot and gotten to know her. She walks me through basically like the entire team culture, which is really helpful because you kind of get a gauge of what the team's going to be like before you meet them, which kind of helps if you're kind of like blindsided by that type of thing. So we
Mm,
had gone to a dinner, and then we talked a lot about the program, about the school. She talked to me about my school year, and that meant a lot to me because not a lot of coaches will really ask you like about your life specifically. It's more just talking about their school. So kind of her doing the deep dive into my life and like what's going on, all that
mm,
stuff, that really says a lot about how much Providence cares. And then the next morning, I had arrived on campus immediately. Like I had my host, and he's a sophomore on the team now, and he's one of my training partners. He's really nice, and he showed me around. He took me to some classes, and then he was awesome. The professors already knew that someone was coming, and the professors were awesome. They were very welcoming. They even like picked me for a few questions, and then so they would have me like take guesses and stuff, and so that was funny, but a little embarrassing at the moment. But yeah, it was really fun.
yeah.
And yeah, the team, they like look at the list of all the recruits. They know our names and stuff, so that's really cool knowing that they're looking out for the people coming in, and they're really interested to see who's coming in the next classes. And so I noticed like also just kind of eating at Ray, even though it's a very small thing,
Yeah.
everybody was together on the team, and everybody was super inclusive of not just everyone on the team, but even the recruits, and including them in conversations, not like sectioning them out as like, oh, they're not on the team yet, but really including everybody. And I had a team meeting at the end, or it was with the recruits. It was individual meetings with the recruit and then the head coach, Jo, and he ran me through a chart based on like where the training intensity is throughout the year, and where wants his swimmers to be throughout the year. And then he said, yeah, take a look at the times and stuff of the kids on the teams. This is where they're at here, this is where at here. And he was spot on with everything. So that's really convincing for me, just knowing that there's a coach out there who really knows what he's doing. He has everything planned out, and it works in the end of the season. I mean,
No,
yeah,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
seniors were doing really well. All the upperclassmen were doing great. The freshmen last year were doing really well. So it was really cool to see. And then I actually got stuck in the airport right afterwards. And so after my visit, I was stuck in the airport for 7 hours. And
Oh my god.
as odd as it sounds, it kind of made me like reflect on it and say like, hey, I really found something special here. And I even like called my parents and I talked to them, and I was like, yeah, I think this might be the place.
Yeah. Oh my god. That sounds like a definitely a special trip. Even
Yeah.
towards the end, getting stuck in the airport for 7 hours.
Yeah.
You did mention your parents, and that is something I want to touch on actually. So I do want to kind of gauge like what was your parents' role in this period of picking college, because I feel like having that support and having that mentor, like you said, that coach in high school telling you that you could reach out to these schools. I think that's so important when you're going through these these changes of from going to high school to college, junior year, senior year. It's pressurized moments. So I felt like I feel like it's really important to see what impact your parents, or if anyone else, friends, or like you said, your mentor. What were kind of the different roles in your selection to PC?
Yeah. So my parents were actually helping me out so much with the entire process, and they really helped me from the beginning. They were on the Facebook pages of like parents of swimmers who are going through college recruitment and all that. Um, my mom and dad had helped me with my reach out email that I would send out to schools, and they really helped me along every every step of the way. Um, they were really supportive of me. I got way more independent with it, and they were really proud because at first they helped me out with making the email, and then they had me write down some questions that I should be asking coaches on calls, and then I would show that to them, and then they liked that, so I would start going on these calls independently, and then they wanted to make a point of not being a part of it because it was where I was going to go, not them. So they wanted to make sure that I would do that on my own, and then I'd kind of report back to them and tell them like what I noticed, what all the coaches were saying, what their philosophies were, all that, what the schools were like, and everything like that. They drove me everywhere to see schools. I saw a bunch of schools in the Midwest, and my mom and I actually, when we saw Providence for the first time, we flew in to New York, saw a few schools there, and we drove all the way up through there to Boston. So it was
Yeah.
New York, Connecticut, um, Rhode Island, and then Massachusetts, and we saw 8 schools in 2 days. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's a lot of schools.
it was a lot, but Providence really stood out. And yeah, even though I was only able to spend like a brief amount of time there for unofficials before my official, it definitely stood out among other schools. But it really shows how dedicated to my dream that my parents were also. And also my coach on my club team back home, he's really a second father to me, and he'd always look out for me. He would also email coaches. He'd talk to coaches, and he would kind of tell me what he thought of them. He also knew a ton of different swimmers that were swimming in different colleges around the
Yeah.
country, so that really helped out because having a big club like that, it like the different connections that you have with different schools really helps out in the long run when you're taking a look at schools and they know what it's like. They say, oh, that's a great team culture. That's not a great team culture. So my coach was very supportive of that as well. And he even reached out to a few schools for me. And yeah, he found out that I could swim at so many different places that I'd never thought I could. So
Mm.
it's
All
been
right.
awesome.
Yeah, I think that's really important for a lot of people to understand, of having those mentors or having supporting parents who took you to 8 colleges in 2 days. It's a big sacrifice, man, but I think that's important. It's really good that you had that support system. Um, Now, kind of like a two-part question, kind of like what you were talking about, what you were touching on. You did say, I think you mentioned that your parents were helping you with preparing questions to ask coaches on the calls. So like just for as like tips for anyone that's listening that wants to become a swimmer in college, what are those tips? What should like swimmers be asking coaches in college? What should those questions be?
Yeah, I'd say it's very important off the bat. You have to ask about the academics first because you're not going to school to swim. you're going to school to learn, and you gotta make sure that they have your major, that they have a good program for your major, and Providence definitely has that with finance, and so that was amazing for me. You have to kind of ask past that point, ask not really about how the team's performing, but mostly the culture. And
Mm-hmm.
really, you kind of find out a lot about the coach based on what they answer to that question. Sometimes they'll give you very vague responses like, oh, they're super well connected or they're always together on the weekends. But then some coaches rarely will be able to say, yeah, they do this, this, and this together. They're always sitting together at lunch and dinner, all of that. They're getting together on the weekends. They have team building exercises. They're doing this at meets in their free time. In between prelims and finals, they're going all hanging out together, watching a movie while they're resting, or they'll ice bath together, different
Right.
stuff like that. And then also another question that really helps you tell what type of coach they are is you have to ask them what their coaching philosophy is. That'll have them really deeply unravel like what why they coach, what they're coaching for, what they're looking for in recruits, and where they're looking to drive their program. Also, another big one is program goals, or where do you see your program in 5 years? And that tells you a lot about how driven the coaches are
Yeah.
and where they see their team going in the future.
Yeah. I think those are actually very, very good questions, and I think they're very useful into what you're actually trying to look for in terms of college. You did touch actually a little bit on the second part of my question, which was what do you look for in a swim team? And I know you did mention team culture, but is there anything besides team culture that you should really look for in a swim team?
I'd say really what the team is doing outside the water.
Okay,
And if you can be doing anything inside the water, but it doesn't really matter if you're not putting in the work outside the pool. And if your lifestyle kind of adds to that, adds to the work you're doing, or if it takes away from it,
gotcha.
you can kind of see from a lot of people. Some teams will have their kids kind of tanking in school, and that really isn't what something that I was wanting. And then I saw at Providence, everybody's studying, people are helping each other out, they're helping each other with LinkedIn connections, all of that stuff. Very career driven group, and um, even the younger kids on the team, they're looking to land summer internships and all of that starting their sophomore years. And I found that to be very cool because they weren't just driven inside the pool, but they were driven outside. And based on their careers, their majors, their academics, it kind of like they live two lives almost.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can't really find that in too many places.
Right. No, I completely agree. I completely agree. Now, again, so obviously we talked about your recruitment process. Now you're here. Now you're at PC, and we're actually almost finishing up our semester. Last, excuse me, last two weeks or so. So now, how have you found balancing school and in swimming? How's that gone for you?
Um, I'd say that is by far the hardest part about college, but I feel like it's something I really adapted to on the quicker end because of my schedule in high school. I would wake up at 3:50 in the morning, go to morning practice,
Wow.
45 minutes away. Then I drive straight to school, do school, drive to dryland, then swim again, and then I'd get home like later at night, and that's when I do my work and I try to get it all done quickly before I got to sleep. And so I was struggling with it a lot in high school, and I feel like cutting out the commute time of about 2 hours of driving a day by just having a 3 minute walk to the pool really helps
Yeah.
a lot because you find much more time to study and then look at schoolwork and make sure you're really on top of it. Maybe get a power nap in there. But I'd say it's definitely the hardest part of the
Yeah.
college experience. But I feel like what I've done in high school to prepare myself for that has really helped out a lot.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a grueling schedule of 3:50 in the morning. Yeah, that's definitely a tough. So, at least I mean, even though it was tough and you made a lot of sacrifices, waking up, driving 45 minutes, like you said.
Yeah,
Um, Now, like this wake up time that you guys have now, it probably seems like a piece of cake. So, um, I mean, that's what they always say. Success loves preparation, and you
exactly.
definitely prepared for what's going on here. So kind of a little bit more in depth of school, studying. Like what study habits do you enforce in your day to day? Are you more of a you set everything on the calendar, digital calendar, or are you more of a sticky notes type of guy? What's your method?
I have some study habits that are very good, and then I have some study habits that are very bad, and I should probably knock out of my life.
Okay.
I usually set a calendar or I have a note sheet, and then I put everything that I need to do down on a sheet, and that's really how I kind of organize all the work that I have to do, and then I make sure to obviously always get it done in time. And I feel like once I get home from practice or back to the dorm and practice, it's that's usually a good time for me since I'm tired, but I'm still like very awake from practice and my brain's functioning probably at the fastest it's going to. So I usually try to knock out most of my work then. But
Right.
my bad study habits, I have a procrastinating problem. I and that's where it gets bad. If I wait too long, I'll turn off all the lights in my room, put my phone away, and just have the computer on so there's no distraction at all. But which I've heard that can hurt your eyes, so I'll stop doing
Yeah.
that because my dad was very upset that I was doing that. So yeah, eventually I'll knock that out of the habits, but got
There
to
you
get
go.
better at focusing.
There you go. And that's what it's all about, progressing, getting better. And hey, at least you can acknowledge some of your bad study habits and, you can work to get better at it, of course. So, but I do think having that digital calendar is really important. I know, as athletes we get the handbook calendar where you can write in, and I know that works for me, but I know everyone else they operate differently digitally, or you know just whatever method they use. So all right, now to kind of just shift into the final topic. Since being here, since being away from home, what's been your biggest setback or challenge that you've faced since being here?
I feel like there's really two big ones. The first one is definitely with time management and sleep. I'd say once you kind of get here, and for me, when I was waking up at 5:30 instead of like 3:50, that was a big deal for me. So I probably stayed up later than I should have on like weeknights, and I kind of ate the consequences of that early by just being very tired and then even getting sick at one point. So I feel like since then, try to get to bed by 10, make sure that you're getting 7.5 hours at least. Hopefully, try to strike for 8. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely still got some improving to do there. But the second thing is definitely, I'd say, with meeting people and just kind of realizing that you're in a different life than you were back home.
Yeah.
It's it was really weird for me at first, like thinking, yeah, one day I have all these friends back home, and then the next day I know no one, and then I have to like go and meet everybody. And I found wonderful people like yourself, and a bunch of people on campus that are so supportive. There's such great people and great friends, and you can really find people in just the most random of ways. But once you really like meet people, I feel like that makes things a lot better. And you just kind of have to embrace the fact that you're not at home anymore, and you kind of have to like make the best of your situation, and just you have to socialize with these new people. Even though you might be hanging on to those friends at home, you can do that still. But I feel like that was a big thing for me, just branching out socially instead of just kind of staying in my dorm, just like
Wow.
24/7.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really helped once I started meeting all these people and making all these friendships.
Yeah. I think that's probably like the most tough, but also yet the most beautiful part about college is, especially if you are going out of state and you're not in your hometown, you are, like you said, you're meeting pretty much everyone for the first time. and you kind of make the most of what you put into it. You're gonna if you decide to stay really reserved, you might find it really tough to find your group, fit in. To whatever it is, but if you kind of put yourself out there like you've done, and I've met some of the other guys on the swim team. They've been great, and so I think that's really important, and I think that's good to especially build a community in which we're going to be in for the next few years. So I think that's really important. So thank you for that answer. Now, just some closing quotes. I do want to say thank you for hopping on the podcast today, Aiden. I think you've provided really good knowledge and advice to people who are in high school or even still in college, in swimming or even just in any other sports. I think we said some good stuff today. But is there any other closing remarks, final tips for someone that that's looking to go to college?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you for having me. It's been a great time, and it's been really good reflecting on everything going into the college process and then being here. And I'd say it was really successful.
All right. Thank you so much, Aiden. Thank you, everybody. This will be the end of this episode for Restrepo's Rundown. And in the next episode, we will talk more about the life of a Providence College student athlete. All right. Thank you, guys. Aiden, take care. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
All right.